Sophia Bennett stood by the hotel window, gazing out at the majestic snow-covered Alps stretching across the horizon. The luxurious resort where she was staying was the venue for the annual financial conference, a gathering of the world's top financial minds. The serene and breathtaking landscape starkly contrasted with the cold numbers and intense negotiations that were about to take place inside. For Sophia, this conference was not just another event. It was a golden opportunity to secure investors for her startup project, something she had poured her heart and soul into. At 28, Sophia was a rising star in the financial world, boasting an impressive track record in the industry. Coming from a poor background, she had climbed her way to success through relentless effort and sharp intellect, conquering milestone after milestone in her career. Her determination and hunger for success had brought her here, standing among men in expensive suits, where million-dollar deals were sealed with a mere handshake. However, Sophia understood that no matter how talented she was, the financial world was a brutal playing field where she constantly needed to prove herself. But ironically, just as she arrived at the hotel, she encountered an unexpected problem. The hotel receptionist looked at her apologetically, explaining that due to a booking error, all the rooms were fully occupied. The only solution left was to share a room with another guest. Sophia frowned, feeling an immediate irritation. She had meticulously planned this trip, and this situation was far from what she had anticipated. Her frustration escalated when she learned that her unexpected roommate was none other than Ethan Caldwell, the cold and calculated CEO of Caldwell Enterprises, a formidable name in the financial world. Ethan, at 35, was known for his strategic brilliance, but equally infamous for his arrogance and aloof demeanor. The family-owned investment conglomerate he led was one of the largest in the world, with networks stretching from the US to Europe. Despite having it all, power, wealth, and influence, Ethan was perpetually burdened by the responsibility of upholding his family's legacy, which made him distant and emotionally detached from those around him. As Sophia entered the shared suite, she caught Ethan's sharp gaze from where he sat in a leather armchair near the fireplace. He didn't seem surprised. Instead, he casually lifted his glass of wine and remarked in a cool, detached tone, "Looks like we're unexpected roommates." His deep voice, laced with indifference, only added to Sophia's annoyance. She never liked Ethan, partly because of his inherent arrogance and partly because she viewed him as a competitor. While she struggled to pitch her ideas and attract investors, Ethan effortlessly secured funding thanks to his family's influential name. That disparity made her feel at a disadvantage in his presence. Letting out a sigh, she dragged her suitcase toward her bed and muttered under her breath, "This is going to be an interesting stay." Ethan glanced at her, the corners of his lips curling into a subtle, enigmatic smile, but he said nothing more. In his mind, Sophia was undeniably talented but overly ambitious, a trait that made him wary of sharing a space with her. However, Ethan was never one to back down from a challenge, whether in business or in unexpected situations like this. Beyond the window, the sun slowly dipped behind the alpine peaks, painting the sky in shades of purple and gold. The financial conference would officially commence the next day, but tension was already brewing inside the suite. Both Sophia and Ethan were individuals who preferred their personal space, and now they had no choice but to endure each other's presence for the next 4 days. Trying to ignore Ethan's presence, Sophia focused on reviewing her documents for tomorrow's presentation. She knew that to succeed, she had to keep a clear head and not let anything distract her. But that was easier said than done, especially with Ethan leisurely sipping his wine and watching her with an unreadable expression. "What brings you to this conference?" Ethan suddenly asked, breaking the heavy silence. Sophia paused momentarily before responding. "To explore new opportunities. I have a promising project, and I want to convince investors to believe in it." Ethan nodded slowly, his gaze darkening. He couldn't deny that Sophia possessed a certain charisma, passionate and determined. But in the cutthroat world of finance, passion alone was rarely enough for success. Sophia stood up, meeting his gaze with unwavering determination in her voice. "And I won't let anyone stand in my way." Ethan raised an eyebrow, intrigued by her boldness. He leaned back in his chair, realizing that the next 4 days might not be as dull as he had initially thought. The first night at the resort passed in tense silence. Both of them were absorbed in their own thoughts, their own ambitions. Yet neither could foresee that this seemingly trivial inconvenience would soon turn into a pivotal moment in their lives, where an unlikely relationship would begin to form between two people who seemed worlds apart. The soft lighting reflected off Sophia's wine glass as she took a sip, savoring the rich taste while pondering the challenges ahead, and the man sitting across from her, who was becoming increasingly difficult to ignore. Welcome to today's story. Let us know which city you're watching from, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. The financial conference officially commenced the following morning in a formal and professional atmosphere. Entrepreneurs, investors, and top financial experts from around the world gathered in the Grand Hall, where groundbreaking business strategies, colossal figures, and lucrative collaboration opportunities were discussed enthusiastically. Dressed in an elegant gray suit, Sophia walked into the hall with captivating confidence. She was well aware of her goal: to impress potential investors and seek opportunities to develop her ambitious project. However, the presence of Ethan Caldwell, the renowned CEO with whom she was reluctantly sharing a room, added an extra layer of tension. On stage, Ethan exuded the aura of a powerful leader, with every word he spoke being attentively listened to and applauded. His presentation on Caldwell Enterprises' expansion strategy received special attention, but Sophia quickly spotted the weaknesses in his plan. When the open discussion session began, Sophia didn't hesitate to voice her opinion. The expansion strategy of Caldwell Enterprises relies too heavily on acquiring tech startups without adequately assessing the risks. Don't you think that spreading too thin could weaken the core values of your corporation? The hall fell into a brief silence. Ethan turned toward her, his gaze cold yet piercing. A faint smile appeared on his lips, but it couldn't conceal the challenge in his eyes. Sophia Bennett, isn't it? I believe that assessing risks is important, but so is the ability to seize opportunities. The companies we invest in have been carefully vetted, he responded calmly. Sophia didn't back down. She stood up, her gaze meeting his with unwavering confidence. You may seize opportunities, but without a proper exit strategy, your entire investment portfolio could face significant risks, especially your recent investment in the AI startup. According to their latest financial report, their cash flow isn't sufficient to sustain operations for the next 2 quarters. Murmurs rippled through the hall. Ethan slightly furrowed his brows, surprised that Sophia had such a deep understanding of his company's financial situation. He maintained his composed demeanor, but Sophia could detect the flicker of irritation on his face. After a brief pause, Ethan replied curtly, "It seems you've done your homework on my company." Sophia shrugged. "I like to do my homework before entering the game." The tension between them lingered throughout the conference, but Sophia didn't let it distract her. She continued to network with potential investors, while Ethan maintained his distance, though his gaze occasionally drifted toward her involuntarily. Back in the hotel room after a long day, Sophia sank into the plush sofa, quietly reflecting on what had transpired during the discussion. She knew she had provoked Ethan, but at the same time, she had made him take notice. Suddenly, a knock on the door broke her thoughts. When Sophia opened it, Ethan stood there, his face cold as usual, but his eyes betrayed a hint of contemplation. "You had some valid points about the AI investment," he admitted in a low voice. Sophia raised an eyebrow, genuinely surprised. This was the first time she had heard Ethan Caldwell acknowledge anything in front of her. Leaning against the doorframe, she crossed her arms. "I can help you," she stated confidently. Ethan frowned. "I don't think we're close enough for that." Sophia chuckled lightly, stepping aside and inviting him in. She opened her laptop and pulled up a financial analysis she had prepared beforehand. Ethan walked in slowly, his eyes fixed on the screen. "I've reviewed your company's financial reports," Sophia continued, scrolling through the data. "This investment could be a double-edged sword. Look here, your current cash flow isn't sufficient to sustain it for long. Without a proper exit or restructuring plan, you could end up with significant losses." Ethan crossed his arms, scrutinizing every detail Sophia presented. Initially skeptical, He gradually realized the depth and precision in her analysis. She wasn't just looking at numbers. She understood the market and foresaw potential risks that even his financial team had overlooked. "What's your plan?" he asked, his tone more serious now. Sophia met his gaze with a faint smile. "I have several proposals to optimize cash flow, restructure the investment portfolio, and identify strategic partners. If you're willing to listen, I can help you avoid an unnecessary downfall." Ethan remained silent for a moment, his eyes no longer holding the arrogance they once did. He nodded, for the first time feeling that someone genuinely understood the burden he carried. Sophia was not just a competitor. She was an intelligent, insightful woman with an undeniable passion for her work. "All right, I'll listen," Ethan said, a rare, genuine smile tugging at the corners of his lips. The two spent hours delving into the financial details, analyzing risk indicators, and drafting potential strategies. Sophia demonstrated her professionalism and dedication, while Ethan gradually realized that his pride might have blinded him to crucial perspectives. The tension in the room gradually gave way to a sense of mutual respect and collaboration. As the night deepened, the warm glow of the room's lights cast soft shadows. Sophia leaned back in her chair and sighed. "So, do you still think I'm just someone who likes to stir up trouble?" Ethan looked at her, his expression filled with newfound respect. I think you're someone who's made me rethink a lot of things." Sophia chuckled softly, but deep down, she admitted that Ethan wasn't as arrogant as she had initially thought. She saw that beneath his cold exterior, he was a man weighed down by the expectations of his family and the immense responsibilities he bore. She couldn't help but feel a tinge of empathy for him. They had started off as rivals, but now an uncertain connection seemed to be forming between them. After a long day of intense debates at the conference, Sophia and Ethan returned to their hotel room. The luxurious space was now quiet, with only the soft clinking of wine glasses as Sophia poured 2 glasses of red wine, the rich aroma filling the cold alpine air. She placed a glass in front of Ethan, her eyes reflecting a contemplative calmness. "We've been arguing all day. Maybe it's time to relax a little," Sophia smiled, her lips curling into a subtle challenge. Ethan stared at her for a long moment before picking up the glass, swirling the wine gently before taking a sip. The bold flavor spread across his palate, and he exhaled softly. For a man constantly burdened by the pressures of work, moments like these were rare. "So?" Ethan shifted slightly on the leather sofa, his eyes never leaving Sophia. "How did you get into finance? I assume it wasn't just for the love of numbers." Sophia smiled, her gaze softening as she looked down at the glass in her hand. "Partly," she said quietly, "but mostly it was because I never wanted to go back to being poor. When I was a child, my family had nothing but debt and barely enough food. I promised myself that I would never let that happen again." Ethan listened in silence, a quiet empathy creeping into his heart. He had never imagined that the ambitious woman before him had such a difficult past. It made him see Sophia in a different light, deeper and more intriguing. "What about you?" Sophia asked gently, her eyes lingering on his handsome yet melancholic face. "I suppose you're not in this just for the money either." Ethan chuckled softly, though there was a weight to his laughter. "Money was never my goal," he said, rotating the glass in his hand. "My family has owned Caldwell Enterprises for 3 generations. That means I'm carrying not just my own responsibilities, but those of thousands of employees. Sometimes I feel like a puppet being controlled by the expectations of others." Sophia nodded, her gaze unwavering. "Sounds lonely." Ethan paused at her straightforwardness. No one had ever said that to him before. No one had truly understood the weight he bore. In that moment, for the first time, Ethan felt that someone had seen through the cold facade he had built around himself. "Yes," he admitted quietly. "You're the first to notice." Sophia smiled, her eyes warm. "Maybe because I've been there too, facing everything alone." For a moment, the room was silent, save for the flickering flames in the fireplace, casting soft shadows on their faces. Ethan studied Sophia, as if seeing her clearly for the first time, not just as an intelligent, strong woman, but as someone with a warm heart and unwavering resilience. "I've never met anyone like you, Sophia," Ethan said, his voice low and sincere. "You're strong, smart, but also passionate and warm. I didn't expect that. Sophia was taken aback by his words, a faint blush creeping onto her cheeks. I'm just being myself, she whispered. Their breaths grew closer as the space between them slowly vanished. Sophia felt the intensity in Ethan's gaze as if he were trying to see into her soul. In that moment, all barriers of status, background, and competition faded away. Ethan reached out, gently brushing a strand of her soft hair between his fingers, his touch hesitant but tender. Sophia, she didn't respond, simply moving closer, her eyes half closed as his breath warmed her skin. The next moment, their lips met in a kiss, gentle yet filled with longing. All the tension, the pressures, and the walls melted away. There were no more business rivals, no more facades, just Ethan and Sophia, two lonely hearts finding solace in each other. That night, neither of them counted how many times they whispered each other's names in ragged breaths. The warmth of their bodies intertwined, driving away the alpine cold outside. The night in the mountains was still, with only the wind blowing through the snow-covered landscape and the rhythmic beating of their hearts. As dawn approached, Sophia lay quietly in Ethan's arms, her head resting against his chest. Ethan gently ran his fingers through her hair, feeling something different, something deeper than any fleeting connection he'd had before. It wasn't possession, nor was it superficial. It was something real. Maybe we'll regret this in the morning, Sophia murmured, a hint of uncertainty in her voice. Ethan simply held her closer. Don't think about tomorrow, just think about now. Sophia closed her eyes, a rare sense of peace settling within her. She knew that this night might not last forever, but for now it was real, and that was enough. Outside the window, snow continued to fall silently, blanketing the resort in white, as if concealing the secrets that only the two of them knew. And that night, Sophia and Ethan left an indelible mark on each other. Emotions that were both unfamiliar and deeply desired, and the beginning of something neither dared to name. The morning light filtered through the thick curtains of the luxurious hotel room, casting a soft glow over the tangled sheets on the bed. Sophia slowly opened her eyes. The first sensation hitting her was the warmth of Ethan's solid back beside her. She startled, her eyes widening as fragmented memories of the night before flooded her mind. Passionate kisses, searing touches, and Ethan's warm breath against her ear. Biting her lip, Sophia tried to steady herself. What have I done, she thought, feeling a wave of panic rise within her. She gently sat up, pulling the sheets around her, and glanced at Ethan with a mix of anxiety and confusion. He was still asleep, his usually stern features relaxed in the soft morning light, free from the cold indifference he often displayed. Taking a deep breath, she knew she had to leave, to return to reality. Last night was just a moment of weakness, a mistake that shouldn't happen again, she told herself. But no matter how much she tried to convince herself, her heart pounded when she recalled the way Ethan had looked at her last night. Intense, longing, and sincere. Sophia carefully slipped out of bed, trying not to wake him, and gathered her scattered clothes from the floor before quietly retreating to the bathroom. As she closed the door behind her, she leaned against the cold mirror, her reflection revealing the turmoil inside her. When she emerged from the bathroom, composed and dressed, Ethan was already awake, leaning against the headboard, watching her with an unreadable expression. He didn't say anything, just studied her as if trying to decipher her thoughts. We should forget about last night. Sophia broke the silence first, her voice carefully neutral. It was just a mistake. Ethan arched an eyebrow, his face calm, but there was something deeper in his eyes. If that's what you want, he said slowly, his voice husky from the long night. But do you really think it was a mistake? Sophia pressed her lips together, avoiding his gaze. We both know it shouldn't have happened. Ethan nodded, reaching for his shirt draped over the chair and slipping it on. Then, he said, keeping his tone detached despite the lingering sense of loss within him, let's pretend it never did. They left the room in an awkward silence, carrying with them a weight neither wanted to acknowledge. Back at the conference, Sophia threw herself into work, using it as a distraction from the confusion swirling in her mind. She spent the morning meticulously taking notes, attending presentations, and meeting potential investors. Yet she couldn't ignore the curious glances thrown her way. Whispers spread throughout the hall, subtle but unmistakable. The knowing looks, the half-smiles from colleagues made Sophia feel as if everyone had already heard something. "I heard Sophia Bennett and Ethan Caldwell left the hotel together this morning," a voice murmured just loud enough for her to hear. "Looks like the financial rivalry just turned into a romantic affair." Sophia clenched her fists, forcing herself to stay composed. She held her head high and walked past as if oblivious, but inside a storm was brewing. Meanwhile, Ethan wasn't spared from scrutiny either. As he left the conference hall, the press was already buzzing with speculation. Paparazzi managed to snap photos of him and Sophia leaving the hotel together, and the images quickly made their way onto major financial publications, accompanied by sensational headlines. The secret connection between CEO Ethan Caldwell and financial expert Sophia Bennett. The new power couple of the financial world? Ethan sighed, holding the newspaper in his hand, his expression darkening. He was used to the media prying into his life, but this time it involved Sophia, someone he didn't want dragged into the chaos that followed him. Sophia walked into the meeting room, tossing the newspaper onto the table, her expression composed but her eyes sharp. "What are we going to do about this?" she asked, her voice cooler than usual. Ethan leaned back in his chair, studying her carefully. "We could ignore it, or we could explain." "Explain?" Sophia let out a dry chuckle. "How? By telling them I was just an accident?" Ethan's eyes narrowed, his voice dropping an octave. "I don't see you as an accident." Sophia fell silent, her expression softening for a fleeting moment before she straightened, regaining her poise. "We need to maintain our distance from now on." Ethan looked at her for a long time, then finally nodded. "If that's what you want." After the conference ended, Sophia returned to her usual life as an independent financial consultant. She focused on new projects, trying to push aside any personal feelings related to Ethan. However, what she didn't anticipate was how quickly rumors about her relationship with the renowned CEO spread throughout the financial industry. Top economic news outlets began reporting on her presence alongside Ethan at the conference, accompanied by photos of them leaving the hotel together. Sensational headlines such as "The Beautiful Financial Consultant and the Cold CEO," "A Power Play or a Strategic Romance," flooded the media. Ethan's competitors wasted no time in fueling the speculation, insinuating that Sophia was nothing more than a gold digger leveraging his influence to secure lucrative partnerships. Meanwhile, Ethan's company, Caldwell Enterprises, already struggling after a risky investment that did not yield expected returns, now faced mounting pressure from shareholders. Doubts about his professionalism and leadership capabilities began to arise. Some major investors raised concerns. Is Ethan letting personal emotions cloud his business decisions? Is Sophia Bennett truly a professional partner, or just a PR stunt to distract from internal issues? Tense board meetings became more frequent, forcing Ethan to spend significant time addressing concerns and attempting to quash the rumors. However, it wasn't easy, as the media relentlessly dug into their connection. Sophia tried to stay focused on her work, but she couldn't deny that her reputation was taking a severe hit. Clients began asking uncomfortable questions, and some important contracts were delayed due to doubts about her professionalism. One morning while working in her office, she received a call from a potential investor. "Ms. Bennett, I'm impressed with your credentials. However, given the recent media coverage, can you assure us that you'll be fully committed to our project? Or are you too preoccupied with personal matters?" The remark felt like a punch to Sophia's pride. No matter how hard she worked, people still viewed her through the lens of a woman caught in a scandal with Ethan Caldwell. That evening, Sophia sat silently in front of her laptop, watching rejection emails pile up in her inbox. She realized that if she didn't take action soon, the career she had worked so hard to build could collapse because of one impulsive night. Ethan could sense Sophia's growing distance. In the days following the conference, she avoided his calls and declined emails regarding potential collaborations. Determined not to let things spiral further, Ethan decided to confront her. One evening, as Sophia worked in her favorite cafe, Ethan appeared unexpectedly. He pulled out a chair across from her, his voice low and resolute. "How long are you going to keep avoiding me?" Sophia sighed, exhaustion evident in her eyes. "Ethan, you know this isn't good for either of us. I can't keep getting dragged into your mess." Ethan studied her for a long moment, his sharp eyes, accustomed to analyzing financial reports, now filled with something deeper, something sincere. "Sophia, you know I'm not the kind of man who lets the media dictate my decisions. I want to work with you not because of the rumors, but because of your abilities." She let out a dry laugh. "The problem is, the world out there doesn't think like you do." Ethan reached across the table, gently taking her hand in his. His grip was firm, his voice unwavering. "Stay. I'll put an end to these rumors and show everyone that our partnership is based on professionalism, not speculation." Sophia looked down at their intertwined hands, her heart wavering, but her mind was still clear. "Ethan, we need time to let this all die down. I need to focus on my work without being tied to anyone's name." Ethan remained silent for a long moment before finally nodding, though his eyes betrayed his reluctance. Understanding that Ethan truly wanted her to stay, Sophia knew that the best choice for now was to leave him behind to avoid unnecessary scrutiny. She decided to put a pause on all projects related to Caldwell Enterprises and seek new opportunities elsewhere. On the last morning before her departure, Sophia left Ethan a brief email. "Thank you for everything. This isn't the end, just a necessary pause. I hope that when we meet again, things will be different." Ethan read the email, his heart weighed down with unspoken emotions. He knew that Sophia's departure wasn't just because of the rumors. It was because she didn't want to become entangled in the power struggles he was constantly facing. Sophia packed her belongings and left the city quietly, carrying with her both beautiful memories and lingering regrets. She knew she needed a fresh start, somewhere free from judgmental eyes and baseless rumors. After leaving Zurich, Sophia chose New York as her new starting point. The bustling, glamorous city seemed like the perfect place to bury the past and refocus on her career. She soon received an offer from a prestigious financial consulting firm, where no one knew about her history with Ethan. It was a chance to rebuild her reputation and escape the prying eyes of the financial world. The first few weeks in New York passed in a whirlwind of work. Sophia buried herself in new projects, endless meetings and late-night work sessions, using the constant busyness as a way to distract herself. Yet despite her best efforts, she found herself glancing at her phone every now and then, hoping, perhaps foolishly, for a message or a call from Ethan. But all she was met with was silence. One chilly winter morning, as Sophia was getting ready to leave for work, a sudden wave of nausea hit her. She rushed to the bathroom, feeling the bile rise in her throat as cold sweat formed on her forehead. Staring at her reflection in the mirror, she reassured herself that it was probably just stress or a change in environment. But as the symptoms persisted over the next few days, along with an unusual sensitivity in her body, Sophia began to suspect something more. One weekend afternoon, she stood in the aisle of a pharmacy, hesitantly holding a pregnancy test in her trembling hands. Thoughts raced through her mind. "This can't be. I was careful, wasn't I?" But a small voice within reminded her that nothing was impossible. She thought back to that night in Zurich, when she and Ethan had been lost in each other, with no caution, no planning, just pure, unrestrained emotions. Back at her apartment, Sophia walked into the bathroom, her hands shaking as she opened the package. She closed her eyes and took a deep breath before glancing down at the result. 2 bright red lines stared back at her. Sophia sank onto the cold bathroom floor, her heartbeat pounding in her chest, unable to believe the truth in front of her. She was pregnant. The days that followed were a whirlwind of emotions for Sophia. She visited a clinic for a more thorough examination, clinging to the faint hope that the test was somehow wrong. But when the doctor confirmed that she was over 8 weeks pregnant, reality finally sank in. Holding the ultrasound printout in her hands, she stared at the tiny figure growing inside her. Fear and uncertainty washed over her. How could she possibly become a mother? What would Ethan say if he found out? Yet amid the worries, an unexpected warmth bloomed in her heart. A small part of her couldn't deny the happiness of knowing that inside her was a tiny life, a piece of both Ethan and herself. Sitting in a quiet cafe near the clinic, Sophia gazed at the ultrasound picture laid out in front of her. She felt trapped between two worlds, the life she had tried to build for herself and the undeniable truth that she now carried. She had left Zurich in hopes of starting fresh, but fate had other plans, leading her down a path she never expected. Sophia didn't know what to do next. Should she tell Ethan? Should she raise the child on her own? Her hands trembled slightly as she touched her stomach, realizing that whatever choice she made, her life would never be the same again. For many sleepless nights, Sophia wrestled with the decision of whether or not to tell Ethan. She knew he was a man wholly devoted to his work, constantly under pressure from his family and stakeholders. Would he even be ready to welcome a child into his already overwhelming life? Images of Ethan during meetings, burdened by the pressures of his company, flashed through her mind. She recalled the moments he stood silently by the window, his eyes reflecting worries he never voiced. Sophia didn't want to become another weight on his shoulders, and she certainly didn't want their child to be caught in the ruthless whirlwind of the corporate world. She told herself, "This is my life. I can be a mother without his help." With that, Sophia decided to keep her pregnancy a secret and cut off all contact with Ethan. Yet deep down, her heart still belonged to him. Whenever she came across news articles about him, photos of Ethan at major financial conferences, she found herself pausing, staring at him for far too long. She missed his gaze, his rare smiles, and the warmth he had shown her in those fleeting moments they shared. Sophia knew she still loved him, but for the sake of their child's future, she had to put those feelings aside. Are you still following Sophia's journey? Do you agree with her decision? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Sophia began adjusting her life to prepare for motherhood. She cut back on work, sought remote opportunities, and started researching everything she needed to know about pregnancy. Her small apartment gradually filled with books on parenting, nutrition guides for expectant mothers, and the first few baby items she couldn't resist buying whenever she walked past a store. Despite her attempts to stay strong, loneliness crept in at times. Seeing other women at the clinic accompanied by their partners left an empty feeling in her chest. Every time she battled morning sickness or exhaustion, she wished Ethan was there. But she reminded herself that she had made the right choice. Ethan didn't need to know about this child. In the stillness of midnight, when everything was quiet, Sophia often found herself wondering, if Ethan knew, how would he react? Would he be happy? Or would he see this as another burden in his already complicated life? She convinced herself that Ethan had his own path to follow, and she needed to continue hers. Yet deep within her heart, a small hope lingered. That one day, when their child was born, Ethan would find his way to them, embracing their baby with the love she knew he was capable of. Sophia gently placed a hand on her belly and whispered softly, "I will take care of you, my love. No matter what happens, we will be okay." Even as she tried to project strength, the sadness in her eyes betrayed her true feelings. No matter how resilient she was, she couldn't deny the emptiness left by Ethan's absence. 7 months had passed since the financial conference in the Alps. Sophia had left London and moved to New York, determined to start anew. She immersed herself in work, trying to bury the memories of Ethan in that fateful night. Yet no matter how hard she tried, she couldn't ignore the undeniable truth growing inside her. Her belly had become more prominent with each passing day, and every fluttering kick reminded her of the man she once loved, and perhaps still did. Sophia had kept this secret to herself. She knew Ethan was a responsible man, but also one consumed by his family legacy and corporate empire. She didn't want to become a burden or an unwanted tie in his already complicated life. Everything seemed to be going smoothly until fate intervened once more. Sophia never imagined she would run into Ethan at an economic summit in New York. She had attended in hopes of finding potential investors for her financial project. But the moment she stepped into the grand conference hall, her breath caught in her throat. There he was, Ethan Caldwell, exuding his usual cool demeanor and commanding presence as he conversed with a group of investors. He hadn't changed much, still powerful, still captivating. Sophia instinctively turned on her heels, hoping to slip away unnoticed. But it was too late. Ethan had seen her, and unlike what she had expected, his gaze froze in shock as he took in her unmistakable change. Her belly, though covered by a loose dress, could not be entirely concealed. Sophia clutched her purse tightly, her heart pounding. "Sophia!" Ethan's voice was low and filled with disbelief. She pressed her lips together, forcing a composed expression. "Ethan, hello." He said nothing, his eyes fixed on her stomach. Are you okay?" he finally asked, his voice quieter. "I'm fine," Sophia responded quickly, desperate to end the conversation. But Ethan wasn't about to let it go. He stepped closer, his voice calm but laced with controlled intensity. "Sophia, are you pregnant?" The question made her freeze, her eyes darting away. "I don't think this is the right place to talk about it." Her voice wavered. Ethan's jaw tightened, his gray eyes darkening with determination. "We need to talk." After the conference ended, Ethan didn't allow Sophia to slip away again. He intercepted her in the hotel hallway, where the dim lighting cast long shadows over his tense face. "Sophia, how long were you planning to keep this from me?" he demanded. Sophia sighed, exhaustion evident in her eyes. "I didn't intend to keep it forever, but I thought you didn't need to know. I can handle everything on my own." Ethan studied her carefully, his emotions flickering across his usually composed face. "Didn't need to know?" he repeated, his voice heavy. "This baby is mine too, Sophia. You don't get to make this decision alone." Sophia looked down, her hand instinctively cradling her belly. "Ethan, you have an entire company to run, an empire to protect. I didn't want to be a burden." Ethan shook his head, disappointment clouding his features. "Do you really think I'd see you and our child as a burden, Sophia? You never even gave me a chance." Tears threatened to spill, but Sophia held them back. "I only wanted what's best for both of us." Ethan stepped closer, his voice firm yet gentle. "What's best for us is for me to be here, with you and our child." Sophia couldn't respond. Deep down, she knew he was right, but fear still clung to her. Fear that Ethan was only offering out of obligation, not love. A long silence stretched between them. Sophia glanced down at her belly, feeling a gentle movement inside, as if the baby was reminding her that this was no longer just about her. "Ethan, I just wanted to protect our baby." "I do too," his voice softened. "And I want to protect you." She looked up, meeting his gaze, searching for the truth in his words. "I'm afraid that if I told you earlier, you'd only see me as a responsibility." Ethan sighed and gently cupped her face, his touch sending warmth through her. "I admit, work has consumed too much of my life, but that doesn't mean I don't have room for you in it." Sophia could feel the sincerity in his words, but she also knew that things wouldn't be so simple. "Ethan, I need time to think," she whispered. He nodded, though his expression held quiet determination. "I'm not going anywhere, Sophia. I'll be here, and I want to do what's right." Sophia stared at him for a long moment, her heart wavering at Ethan's persistence. She knew that from this moment on, everything would change, and perhaps this time, she needed to stop running. The unexpected encounter at the summit had forced Ethan to face the truth that Sophia had hidden for the past 7 months. Not one to give up easily, he resolved not to let her go through this alone. This time, he would prove that he was not only a skilled businessman, but also a responsible man, a father who would do whatever it took for their unborn child. Ethan didn't hesitate for long. Just a few days after his conversation with Sophia, he held a surprise press conference that caught the attention of the media and stakeholders alike. Standing at the podium in a sharp black suit, his piercing gaze softened by an uncharacteristic sincerity, Ethan didn't mince words or try to evade questions. As soon as the first inquiry about the rumors was raised, he took the microphone and declared firmly, "Yes, I am going to be a father." The room fell into stunned silence. Cameras flashed incessantly, and reporters fired off questions in rapid succession. Ethan raised his hand for silence, his eyes scanning the crowd, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "I know this news may come as a surprise to many, but to me, it's the most important thing in my life. Sophia Bennett, the mother of my child, and I will raise our baby together and build a strong future for our family." Sophia watched the press conference unfold from her apartment screen, her heart swelling with emotions she couldn't quite name. She had never expected Ethan to publicly acknowledge their child without hesitation, without concern for his image or the pressure from his board members. But was this determination something that could truly last? After the press conference, Ethan dedicated more time to Sophia. At first, she felt uneasy and awkward with his sudden attention. But Ethan was persistent, not allowing her initial reluctance to push him away. He showed up for every prenatal appointment, always arriving on time with a warm cup of tea in hand. "You don't have to be here every time," Sophia said, though deep down she appreciated his unwavering presence. Ethan simply smiled, helping her into the chair and waiting patiently. Each time the doctor explained the baby's progress, he listened intently, asking questions with a seriousness that warmed Sophia's heart. "What do we need to prepare for this stage?" "The most important thing right now is ensuring the mother stays comfortable and happy," the doctor replied, and Ethan turned to Sophia with a look of quiet determination. After each appointment, he insisted on driving her home, occasionally stopping by baby stores to pick up small items, tiny woolen shoes, a soft baby pillow. Every time, Sophia couldn't help but smile, despite the lingering doubts in her mind. Ethan didn't just accompany Sophia to her appointments, he quietly prepared for their child's future behind the scenes. One evening, he took her to a new apartment he had secretly arranged. It was a spacious yet cozy space, with a beautifully decorated nursery painted in soothing tones and stocked with all the essentials. Standing in the middle of the nursery, Sophia's eyes welled up as she took in everything: the neatly arranged baby clothes, the crib, even a stack of parenting books. "You did all of this?" she asked, her voice trembling. Ethan stepped closer, his gaze filled with tenderness. "I want our child to have the best start in life, and I want you to know I'm serious about this." Sophia felt a tightness in her chest, the doubts she had been holding on to slowly beginning to melt away. Ethan wasn't just offering empty words, he was proving his commitment through actions. Gradually, Sophia stopped pushing Ethan away. She allowed him to be part of her life in ways she hadn't before. They started discussing baby names, planning for the future together, and spending quiet evenings just talking about their hopes and fears. One afternoon, while they were walking through the park, Sophia suddenly stopped and placed a hand on her belly. "Can you feel that?" she asked, her eyes lighting up with a gentle glow. Ethan knelt beside her, placing his hand over hers, feeling the baby's soft kicks. His eyes widened in amazement, and a genuine smile spread across his face. "I can feel it. It's incredible." At that moment, Sophia realized that Ethan wasn't just fulfilling an obligation. He was truly embracing the idea of fatherhood. One evening, as Sophia sat on the couch reading a parenting book, Ethan approached and took her hand gently. "Sophia, I know you've been worried. I'm not perfect, but I want you to know that I'm here, always, for you and our baby." She looked into his unwavering eyes, feeling a sense of security she hadn't felt in months. "I trust you, Ethan." It wasn't just words anymore. It was an acknowledgement of the new life they were about to embark on together. Ethan had proven that beyond his business empire, Sophia and their child were now his highest priority. For the first time in months, Sophia felt at peace. As Sophia's pregnancy entered its final months, preparations for their baby's arrival kept them both busy, but filled with anticipation. Ethan remained by her side through every step: doctor visits, nursery shopping, and even late-night cravings. But despite all their careful planning, Sophia never expected the baby to come earlier than expected. That evening, as Sophia relaxed on the sofa with a book in hand, a sudden pain shot through her abdomen. She winced, clutching her belly. At first, she thought it was just normal contractions, but the pain intensified rapidly, becoming more frequent and severe. Her breathing grew ragged, and beads of sweat appeared on her forehead. "Ethan!" She called out his name, her voice filled with worry. Ethan rushed out from his study immediately. Seeing Sophia in pain, he didn't hesitate. He scooped her up and hurried to the car, speeding through the rainy streets of New York. Throughout the drive, he held her hand tightly, his voice steady but filled with concern. "It's going to be okay, Sophia. You're doing great. Everything will be fine." She nodded weakly, but the anxiety in her eyes was undeniable. Ethan felt the tension in her grip and his heart clenched. For the first time in his life, he realized there was something he couldn't control. Upon arriving at the hospital, Sophia was quickly taken to the delivery room. Ethan held her hand until the very last moment, his eyes filled with worry as doctors and nurses surrounded her. "I'm right here, Sophia. Don't be afraid." As the delivery room doors closed, Ethan stood outside, a whirlwind of emotions swirling inside him. He paced back and forth along the sterile hospital hallway, each passing minute feeling like an eternity. Memories of all the times he'd left Sophia to face things alone flooded his mind, filling him with regret like never before. After what felt like forever, a nurse finally emerged with a beaming smile. "Congratulations, Mr. Caldwell. Both mother and babies are healthy. Sophia has given birth to twins, a boy and a girl." Ethan stood frozen for a moment, his mind struggling to process the words. He rushed into the room, and the first sight that greeted him was Sophia lying on the hospital bed, exhausted but glowing with happiness. In her arms lay a tiny angel, pink and fragile, resting peacefully. A nurse gently placed the other baby in Ethan's arms. He gazed down at the infant, his son, with awe. The baby's bright blue eyes stared back at him, tiny hands moving slightly, but the weight of that little life stirred something profound within him. "Hello there!" Ethan's voice cracked, his eyes misty with emotion. "Daddy's here!" Sophia watched the scene, tears rolling down her cheeks, not from pain, but from overwhelming happiness. Ethan leaned down and pressed a soft kiss to her forehead, and for the first time in his life, he felt like he truly had a family. "What should we name them?" Sophia whispered, her voice filled with tenderness. Ethan looked at the two tiny bundles in their arms, then met her gaze with conviction. "Alexander for our son, and Amelia for our daughter. What do you think?" Sophia nodded, whispering, "They're perfect." Outside the hospital window, the city lights shimmered, witnessing their most precious moment. In that instant, Ethan knew nothing else mattered more than this. As the twins were taken to the nursery for monitoring, Ethan returned to Sophia's bedside. He gently took her hand and kissed each of her fingers, as if trying to convey all the love and gratitude he felt. "Sophia?" He hesitated, then took a deep breath. "I've missed out on too much time, but today, seeing our children come into this world, I realize that nothing is more important than you and this family." Sophia looked into his eyes, no longer seeing the cold, calculated CEO, but a man filled with warmth and vulnerability. Ethan knelt beside the bed, pulling a small red velvet box from his pocket. Inside, a sparkling diamond ring caught the soft hospital light. "Marry me, Sophia, not because of the babies, but because I love you. I want to take care of you and our children for the rest of my life." Sophia stared at the ring, tears spilling down her cheeks. She had dreamed of this moment countless times, but never dared to believe it would actually happen. Smiling through her tears, she whispered, "Ethan, yes, I will." Ethan smiled, his eyes lighting up with joy as he slipped the ring onto her finger and pressed a tender kiss to her lips. Outside, the night breeze carried whispers of their newfound happiness, while inside the hospital room, their hearts found warmth in each other's embrace. That night, Ethan didn't leave Sophia's side. He sat by her bed, holding her hand as they talked about the future, their plans, their hopes, their dreams. Sophia finally felt the peace she had been searching for all along. As they watched their newborn sleeping soundly in the nursery, Sophia knew this was where she belonged, with Ethan, with their children, as a family. That day was not only the birth of Amelia and Alexander, but also the day Sophia truly found happiness and trust in love. Ethan had proven that he was not just a man of business, but also a devoted father and a reliable life partner. A year later, amidst the picturesque scenery of the Swiss Alps, where it all began, Sophia and Ethan officially tied the knot in an intimate wedding ceremony. It wasn't the grand, lavish event that many would have expected, but a simple yet meaningful celebration attended by close family, friends, and their two little angels, Alexander and Amelia. Sophia stood by the window of the hotel room, the very place where, a year ago, she was a strong but lonely woman. Now she was dressed in a pristine white wedding gown, her eyes shimmering with happiness. From afar, she could see Ethan playing with their children, their laughter echoing through the serene mountains like a beautiful melody that made her heart race with joy. As the ceremony began, Ethan took Sophia's hand, his eyes filled with boundless love and appreciation. "I once thought I had everything, but it wasn't until I met you that I realized true happiness is having you and our children by my side," Ethan whispered, his deep voice brimming with sincerity. Sophia smiled, tears of joy streaming down her cheeks. "And I realized that love isn't about achieving great success out there, but about these small, meaningful moments like this." Under the gentle hues of the setting sun, they exchanged their vows, surrounded by the peaceful and romantic ambience. When Ethan softly kissed Sophia, it felt as if the world had faded away, leaving only the warmth of love and their unwavering belief in the future. After the wedding, they returned to their everyday life, managing the company together and nurturing their small but precious family. Sophia wasn't just a devoted wife and mother, she became a trusted partner in Ethan's business. With her sharp intellect and innovative strategies, she brought a fresh perspective to Caldwell Enterprises. Ethan, once a man solely focused on work, had learned to balance his career and family life, spending more time with his wife and children. Alexander and Amelia became their greatest joy. In the evenings, their home was filled with laughter and warmth, Ethan reading bedtime stories to the twins, while Sophia lovingly lulled them to sleep. She realized that true love wasn't measured by million-dollar contracts or soaring revenues, but by warm embraces, shared moments, and the simple happiness of watching their children grow day by day. Sophia's life finally felt complete. She had found true love, not one built on loneliness or ambition, but one grounded in mutual understanding, companionship, and unwavering support. And from that moment on, their journey continued, built on a love that was steady and enduring, filled with the most ordinary yet sacred things, a happy family. Thank you for following our story. What do you think about this journey? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your feedback is invaluable to us. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel.